Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Oh, my camera is not ready this morning. I thought I was sitting here all ready. And there we go. There we go. And I was even sitting here early this morning. Good morning. Welcome to the office. Welcome to the morning grind. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm Heath. I'll be your host this morning. I have been up and working last night. Was trying to get my Christmas story finished, and I was thinking, all right, I'm going to sit down last night and work all evening. And I'm going to try to I thought I would get everything done except for the first scene and the last scene. I was saving the first scene and the last scene, and then I ran into a theological problem with theophany and with the story regarding the massacre of the innocents. And that kind of threw me for a loop last night. So I didn't quite get done. I didn't quite get to where I was expecting to get to. So everything takes longer than you'd expect and goes longer. But because I realized the important scenes in the story were a bit different from what I was originally expecting. So that process continues. I think I got some stuff worked out. So we will see. I'm going to keep going. Our main topic mean, maybe today's going to be harder because I got a meeting with Brianna at 2. We always meet to talk about story. We got a lot of things to actually talk about on our list today. She did send me a copy of Dark Goddess. I've now gotten 2 scripts from her. She is just absolutely banging on with writing these scripts. So I've read 2. I started reading Dark Goddess last night. After I was done with my writing, I decided to take a few minutes, grab some tea, and started reading her script of Dark Goddess. We said we need to have 2 scripts ready to go if we're going to go out to LA. And she has the draft of 1 that people are reading. What was the name of it? I forget. But the God, why can't I think of the name? It's horror story. It's a horror story set in an evangelical church. I forget the name of it. So I read that one, and I know some of you others have read that one as well. She's been passing that around for beta reading, and then she finished Dark Goddess, which she's been talking to me about for years. She's been talking about Dark Goddess for years. Like, I think one of the first times we ever got together to do the Cultist season 1, she was telling me about the Dark Goddess story. So I've actually started reading it. So she's going right along with things, far ahead of me as far as I'm going. But so she and I have to talk this afternoon. And then I've got to do some more watching of Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, and also the Director's Edition, because on Table Talk tonight, we will Doug and I will be tearing into Star Trek 6, and I want to be sure that all of my notes are ready. I do love that movie, but I got to make sure that all my notes are ready. Watching the director's cut, so might be tomorrow before I get to tear into the thing again. We will see. Let's see. So today's main topic is recipes for the world from the world of Tolkien. We're going to be taking a look at this book right here, seeing what's inside. I picked this up because another thing that I've got to do at some point is figure out what's going on with dinner and a board game, and I need some recipes, and I'm wondering if there's anything in here that we can use. This says it's inspired by the legends, but I need to come up with some recipes. I guess I'll just have to cook. I mean, I can go to other people's, but it's just easier if I sit down and I prepare like 5 to 10 recipes, get the office cleaned up, shoot that, and then have all of the cooking segments done, and then cast and schedule shows. All right, let's go over here. Let's see who all is here. Let's see. James is here, of course. James says when the Hobbit movie were released, Denny's had a special menu that was outstanding. Eggs, fried, and honey cakes were like and the like. I missed that menu. Good morning, PH. Good morning, Lynn. Could this be the day that we learn the secret of making limbus? Well, we're going to find out. Let's. In fact, I think maybe. I mean, it had better. Let's see if I see it in the. Well, let's see. It's organized according to breakfast, second breakfast, 11Z's luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and then drinks. I mean, limbus is going to be the first thing that everybody looks for. Oh, look. Okay, I was about to say, that's ridiculous. Both cram and limbus bread are under 11Z's. Okay, so yes. Limbus is in here. Good morning, Zero the Blade. Good morning, Sable Phoenix. Please do check out the Discord server. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to I've got to do some cleaning out. I'm going to change some things up on the Discord server, clean out some of the things that we're not using. But yes, please go over to the Discord server. I always post the link to the grind every morning, and then also when we do something like Table Talk, I post an announcement so that everybody knows about 15 minutes beforehand that we're about to go live. So I'll do that. Sable says nothing wrong with shortening the grind if necessary to get back to lifting big rocks. Yeah, and my car still is not starting, so I've got that too. So we'll see. I was just looking at the comments. Don't beta read scripts with strangers get treatments? How complicated do I want the recipes to be? Well, that can vary. Easier is better, especially if it's just me. Man, I don't have my I've been moving my microphone when I've been sitting here working. So there we go. Good morning, Keith. Good morning. All right. So first of all, let's do our breathe and sip here. I've got Witch's Brew, got coffee this morning. I do want to say that the Table Talk channel itself, if you are over there, the Table Talk channel now has 267 subscribers. So we've gone up 11 yesterday. We brought in 11 more subscribers yesterday. And I've been posting some other shorts about Doug talking about Star Wars and Luke Skywalker, and those have been doing pretty well. So we will see. It's happy about that. All right. Need to do the same thing on a bunch of different channels. All right, let's do our breathe and sip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare our War of Art. We are looking at the War of Art over here. By Stephen Pressfield for our morning readings. If I can bring up let me restart the program. I thought I had everything ready, but for some reason, the program is jammed up. Okay, so here we go. So I'll bring this up. And here we go. Everybody got your favorite beverage? I've got coffee this morning. Here we go. 2 deep breaths in, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. It's the mental health portion of the show. Here we go. And sip. All right. And now, our inspiration for the day. Should we just go ahead and make a religion out of it? I don't know. We're talking about The War of Art, written by Stephen Pressfield, one of my favorite authors. This is about how you get your work done if you are working to do creative things, like I know so many of us are here on this stream. So we are going through and reading The War of Art, a couple of passages every day. They're short passages. These were yesterday's. So today, resistance. And resistance is everything that keeps you from being everything that you should be. Resistance is that which stops you from being everything you can be, especially in the area of creating the things that you need to create. Resistance is universal, Stephen Pressfield says. We're wrong if we think that we're the only ones struggling with resistance. Everyone who has a body experiences resistance. Also, resistance never sleeps. Henry Fonda was still throwing up before each stage performance, even when he was 75. In other words, fear doesn't go away. The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every day. Those were short. Let's do a couple of more. Resistance plays for keeps. Resistance's goal is not to wound or disable. Resistance aims to kill. Its target is the epicenter of our being, our genius, our soul, the unique and priceless gift we were put on earth to give, and that no one else has but us. Resistance means business. When we fight it, we are in a war to the death. And then resistance is fueled by fear. Resistance has no strength of its own. Every ounce of juice it possesses comes from us. We feed it with power by our fear of it. Master that fear, and we conquer resistance. All right. Reading done. Hi, Tomocrat. PH says limbus are not difficult to make. You just have to be an elf. Exactly. Okay, I'll let you know. We'll see what we come up with. I've got books. I've got, of course, the World of Tolkien recipe. Let me bring this up right here. So right here, the World of Tolkien book right there. And then also, I had been going through this originally on Dinner and a Board Game. And I think in a couple of the original season episodes, you see me go through this, or I'm referring to this. the 4-Hour Chef, because I was thinking at one time, hey, I'm going to go through the 4-Hour Chef. Seems like fun. But I have not been able to do it yet. But there might also be some fun stuff in here that I would like to pull from. Has anybody ever read this one or gone through the 4-Hour Chef? All right. We could take a look at it on the grind if we needed to. All right, so let's see. Recipes from the world. Is that everything that we're supposed to talk about today? Everything going on this morning? Be with us 7 o'clock tonight for Undiscovered Country. I was trying to get that link ready before the show, and I was making up the thumbnail, but it will still be simulcast between this stream or this channel and Table Talk. But I think pretty soon I'm going to stop streaming over on this channel for the Table Talk show. For the Table Talk show, Stray posted the link to the Table Talk podcast right here. Oh no, that's the Discord server. But that's the let's see. So I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets over to the dedicated channels. Table Talk. There we go. Right there. Sable Phoenix says, I've always wondered about these kinds of fantasy-based recipe books. Unless the author was a culinary expert in some fashion, they're just as likely to be standard Earth recipes with different names. Yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about too. And that could be what's going on here. So this says, inspired by the legends. So I think we have some of that. So that's why we have to look through here and see what's actually good. Of course, it's not like they didn't eat, they ate potatoes in Middle Earth. So ever wondered what Limbus bread, cram, or Bjorn's honey cakes might taste like? From Crick Hollow apple loaf, Pippin's Minas Tirith lunch, and the Brandywine fish pie to the Dwarven spice pickled beetroot, West Farthing's fairness, and Bjorn's twice-baked cakes, recipes from the world of Tolkien includes over 75 mouth-watering recipes that will take you on a journey through Middle-earth, delivering a treat for your taste buds and your imagination. Immerse yourself in Tolkien's epic fantasy world with recipes inspired by its places and characters, and cook up a feast fit for orcs and elves alike. On that same subject, Sable, there is the D&D. There's the Dungeons and Dragons cookbook. I've never checked to see if there's a Game of Thrones cookbook. There should be. Game of Thrones cookbook. If that one's done by somebody who knows what they're talking about, that one could be, yeah, of course. So A Feast of Ice and Fire. Yep. Because he does talk about so much about food in there as well. A Feast of Ice and Fire, a companion cookbook. I'm going to add that to an Amazon cart. Because I do think the thematic kinds of recipes are best for, or nice. I've got some other things I want to do that are more practical on Dinner and a Board Game. Just in order to get away. The purpose was for Dinner and a Board Game to be able to get us away from just ordering pizza on game night. So another one of the things that I kind of thought about, since it was inspired by Dinner and a Movie, you can do some stranger things. They did some strange kinds of dinners sometimes. But on the other hand, it would be nice to make some of them practical things like crock-pot meals that you can get ready during the day. And then when you got a bunch of people coming over for game night, you can all share. There's a World of Warcraft cookbook too. Huh. Yeah, that's inspired by. That's why I was actually thinking that the Song of Ice and Fire cookbook might be better. Might be if somebody who knew what they were doing was putting it together, because it doesn't seem as fantastical on the ingredient list. It's not like I did a complete study of the Song of Ice and Fire foods, but I know he pays a lot of attention to the foods. and it should be things you can get. Lynn says, I believe the folks who have tried to recreate the food of Pern have run into similar difficulties. Wherries are very hard to come by on Earth. Oh, there's a Redwall cookbook too? Oh, Keith is recommending the Game of Thrones cookbook. Okay, I have a Game of Thrones cookbook. It's great. My wife and I used it a few times. The duck recipe is awesome. Now, duck, I bet that would be a fun one to do out of there. Okay, so let's see. So let's see what's in here then. See if there are any good ones to do, especially easier ones that I could do in the kitchen. So like I said, we're organized here according to breakfast, second breakfast, 11sies, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and then drinks, which actually the drinks are pretty interesting, or would be pretty interesting to me. So it says, introduction. In both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, warriors and heroes, big and small, men, dwarves, wizards, and hobbits especially, are shown to be interested in and even preoccupied with food and drink. There are dozens of references to breakfast, second breakfast, lunches, suppers, and feasts, and plenty more to other food stuffs from travelers' waybreads to near miraculous draughts. Tolkien's concern with food, however, goes far beyond the merely utilitarian. His descriptions of the aforementioned meals are often detailed and loving, suggesting the real place the characters and their creators take in eating and drinking. Who can forget Sam's comforting rabbit stew, rustled up in the wilderness to sustain his beloved friend and master Frodo, or the honeyed cakes and mead of Bjorn the Skin Changer, or the vegetarian feast created by Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. Tolkien's tour de force in this respect, of course, is the unexpected party that opens The Hobbit, where delicious cakes, pies, and other treats accumulate in a mouth-watering pile. There is a deeper aspect to the omnipresence of food in Tolkien stories, however. At one level, it contributes to their narrative structure. The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings both begin with homely feasts before the adventure properly begins. This pattern repeats itself through the books, with a crisis of suspense and jeopardy following by respite, often marked by a good meal of some kind, and so on, so the reader constantly moves between breathless excitement and feeling of cosseted charm. At another level still, the food in the story sometimes has a real emotional punch. Sam's making of the rabbit stew is an act of love for Frodo, offering a hopeful vision of home amid the despair. Food in Tolkien is about these things: companionship and friendship, love and hope, and perhaps most importantly of all, home. No surprise, then, that the lembas bread of the elves has a spiritual, even godly quality about it. In this book, you will find a rich collection of recipes inspired by the food and dishes in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, like some of the pork pie as served by Bilbo at his tea party, Sam's coney stew, and Bjorn's honey cakes, are to some extent recreations of actual dishes found in the books, while others pay homage more fancifully to the characters, places, and things, people and places, like the roasted stuffed pepper flames, inspired by the flame-clothed balrogs, or the Grey Haven's garlicky grilled mussels in honor of the elven port. The recipes are arranged according to the Hobbit's 6 daily meals: breakfast, second breakfast, 11sies, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, supper, though inevitably quite a few of these could just as well be included in one section as another. There's a final section on drinks, too, which, like food, plays an important role in Tolkien's tales. With the above in mind, it's time to explore the smells and tastes of Middle-earth, enjoy experimenting, discovering, and, of course, eating all the delicious ingredients found in these recipes, and let whatever you decide to conjure up transport you straight to Tolkien's legendary world. Second breakfast and 11sies are just excessive. Okay, so there are a lot of these cookbooks around. It doesn't surprise me that the Song of Ice and Fire one's recommended. Tolkien's Hobbits, we're not going to look at every one of these, but we'll see which ones interest us. The ones that interest me mainly are the ones that are actually in the book, and see what they try to come up with in order to create that. The ones that interest me least would be the ones that are inspired by something like The Wings of the Balrog or something. See you later, Keith. So Tolkien's hobbits like to start their days with a hearty breakfast and find little more disheartening than setting off on a day's trek on an empty stomach. There is wisdom here, of course, though there are plenty of other healthier options than Bilbo's favorite of eggs and bacon and tea and hot buttered toast. So we have porridge here, packed with fiber, nutrients, and complex carbs. A steaming bowl of porridge is the perfect way to provide your body with fuel for the day ahead. To add extra nutrition and flavor, here's a list of Middle-earth inspired toppings for you to choose from as well. Unlike improvised gruel made from oats and water, the kind of breakfast the weary traveler might make while undertaking a long journey, such as the hobbits did, porridge made at home with full access to milk, honey, fruits, jams, and nuts can be a sumptuous feast, fit for hobbits, dwarves, and men alike. In order to make porridge, I've never had porridge before. You need non-dairy milk, dairy or non-dairy milk, water, vanilla extract, ground cinnamon, salt, and porridge oats. So you just heat all of that up. So I guess it makes sense that it's warm. Let's see, Traveler's Overnight Oats. Make this easy to prep and easy to transport breakfast vegan by using dairy-free milk and yogurt. Oat and coconut both work well. You can experiment with flavorings to suit your taste. Try adding seeds and nuts, chopped apple or pear, or dried fruit. When traveling long distances, oats and other grains are a practical food to carry with you. They last a long time if kept dry and can quickly and easily make into a simple yet filling food. On their long journeys, Tolkien's heroes are likely to have been equipped with some quantity of grains, especially to feed their horses and ponies. Smoky stewed beans. That's a breakfast thing? You can eat these comforting, filling stewed beans for breakfast the British way, atop hot buttered toasts, or for lunch on a baked potato with a little grated cheese sprinkled over. They freeze well, so why not make a big batch? Anybody here from the UK or the British way? Any of our British friends here who eat smoky stewed beans on top of hot buttered toast for breakfast? Sable says, get you some steel cut oats and you can make porridge simply. Just set it to soak overnight. Porridge is great. My mom made it with eggs and butter instead of milk when I was growing up. Delicious. Well, maybe I should. Okay, let's get some notes here. Maybe I should try. Oh, Lynn says, I'm not British, but I love beans on toast. Beans and toast are part of the full English, James says. Well, then it does sound very Hobbit-like. Let's see if we take some notes here. Dinner and a board game. Potential meals. So is porridge one that we should do just because I've never had it? I guess that would give me an excuse to say that I've had porridge. I wasn't expecting to start like this. Because we did do breakfast. You know, we did breakfast for like a brunch on Dinner and a Board Game before. So the smoky stewed beans says food in Middle-earth tends to be simple, filling, and delicious. While beans on toast is not very popular in America, it's one of those quintessential British standby meals that have helped define British food culture. Tolkien's mission in creating Middle-earth was to invent an English mythology, and in doing so, he wove timeless elements of English and British culture into his work, including its food. The fish and chips on page 142 is another example. Oh, bacon and mushroom frittata? The smell and sound of sizzling bacon are enough to make any morning feel special. This dish makes a little bacon go a long way, and if there's any frittata left over, you can enjoy it cold for lunch with a side salad. In The Hobbit, Bilbo's love of bacon is unparalleled. After sneakily handling over the Arkenstone to Bard the Bowman and the Elven King to prevent conflict between the men of Dale, the elves and the dwarves, he returned to the sentry post gate at the Lonely Mountain, promptly falls asleep and dreams of eggs and bacon. It seems then that even though the thrills of burgling treasure and meeting a dragon, Bilbo still prizes the simple things. So this says 8 portobello or flat chestnut mushrooms, 1 garlic clove finely chopped, olive oil, 4 smoked back bacon rashers. I have never heard of that before. 4 smoked back bacon rashers, 6 large eggs, 1 tablespoon chopped chives, 1 tablespoon whole grain mustard, knob of butter, salt, and black pepper. Put the mushrooms on a baking sheet and scatter over the garlic, if using. Drizzle over a little olive oil, seasoning with salt and pepper, and place in a preheated oven. Okay, meanwhile, lay the bacon rashers. So, as described here, the recipe here is just oatmeal with toppings. Well, that sounds like it sounded rather simple. Sable has other ideas for porridge. You add in cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, allspice, and salt for the seasoning, and sweeten it with honey or maple syrup. Then fold the porridge into eggs slowly so the eggs don't cook and stay creamy. The back bacon. Back bacon. Back bacon is what we'd call Canadian bacon. Ah. PH says, depending on the region in Brazil, we may have cooked fish and yam and sweet potatoes with butter for breakfast. That sounds good. Especially the fish. Let's see. Potato and cabbage fritter. Oh, travelers all-in-one breakfast in a tin. Okay, let's see about this. This recipe is perfect accompanied by a pot of hot coffee. Cook the fuss-free vegetarian breakfast in 1 roasting tin and place it in the middle of the table for everyone to help themselves. This actually sounds like a good one. I mean, the porridge is a little bit different. I can't really see cooking porridge for game night. But perhaps, like, if you're trying to do breakfast or you are having people over for brunch, then maybe this is good. This recipe is perfect accompanied by a pot of hot coffee. Cook this fuss-free vegetarian breakfast in 1 roasting tin and place in the middle of the table for everyone to help themselves. Okay, serves 4. Because you want it to be easy. If you're actually trying to think about things that are practical to possibly do for dinner and a board game, if you're having a game night or game brunch, easy is good. A large pot of things are good to work with. So this says ingredients: 500 grams cooked potatoes cubed, 4 tablespoons olive oil, a few thyme sprigs, 250 grams button mushrooms trimmed, 12 cherry tomatoes, 4 eggs, salt and black pepper, 2 tablespoons chopped parsley to garnish. Tolkien stories are full of long journeys and meals eaten on the road. This breakfast recipe is inspired by camping and cooking over an open fire. Made with only 1 pan, but packed with hearty and filling ingredients to fuel a day of trekking, this breakfast will satisfy all manners of travelers for the road ahead. So it was cubed potatoes, olive oil, thyme, button mushrooms, tomatoes, eggs, and chopped parsley to garnish. Spread the potato cubes in an even layer on a roasting tin. Drizzle over the oil, scatter the thyme sprigs, and season with salt and pepper. Bake in a preheated oven, 225 degrees C, for 10 minutes. Stir the potato cubes well, and then add the mushrooms and return the roasting tin to the oven for a further 10 minutes. Add the tomatoes and return the tin to the oven for a further 10 minutes. Make 4 hollows in between the vegetables and carefully break an egg into each hollow. Return the tin to the oven for the final 3 to 4 minutes until the eggs are set. Scatter the parsley over the top and serve straight from the tin. Well, that one interests me. And you know, another time that you need breakfast, I've got to have my one of my other nephews over. Because another time that you need breakfast is if you're having nephews over for a board game weekend and they're staying at your house overnight. I like doing a breakfast for them. Although I've typically been doing eggs and bacon. This doesn't happen as often as I would like, but eggs and bacon and buttermilk biscuits. Breakfast is so much different than what Americans usually eat all over the world and usually much healthier. Japanese breakfasts are incredible. Oh, hey, I like this. Sable says. I like that painting. Baron's potato bread. This unusual bread is perfect for mopping up the juices from thyme-flecked tomatoes here, but also wonderful spiced or spread with spiced apple butter or lightly toasted and buttered to accompany the soup story. So potato bread. Among men, Baron is perhaps a great hero. Among men, Baron is perhaps the great hero of the Silmarillion. He steals the Cimmeral jewel from Morgoth's crown, defeats the great wolf Karkaroth. I'm sure I've never said that out loud before. Once again, Karkaroth, and the only man to return from the dead. Interestingly, he is also one of the few confirmed vegetarian characters in Tolkien's work. He gives up eating meat out of kinship with the animals who help him survive while he lives as a solitary outlaw. Spiced pear and cranberry muffins. Oh, PH says, I love potato bread. It's also very good with a cream cheese filling. This stream is going to make everyone hungry. Hobbits and food. Hobbits like their food, indeed, for concern. Hobbits like their food, indeed, for their concern with having a full stomach is almost as characteristic of their race as their short stature and hairy feet. Not only are they good at eating, they are good at cooking too, an art they learn even before they learn to read and write, if they manage to do that. Sam appears to be the best hobbit cook we meet, able to rustle up a feast out of the most rudimentary ingredients. See the famous Coney stew on page 156, though Bilbo also seems to be more than a competent baker. Tolkien famously drew attention to the close association between hobbits and food in his prologue of The Lord of the Rings, where he informs us of their love for both laughter and food and their partiality for 6 meals a day when they can get them. By the end of the Third Age, the author tells us plenty is the norm in the hobbit's homeland, the Shire, and memories of the days of dearth, a family that followed an outbreak of plague, are but a folk memory. You know, everybody's going to go start baking things. We're done here, right? And if the representatives we meet in Tolkien's tales are anything to go by, the hobbits do get their regulation 6 meals. All are a little chubby, some more than others. Fredegar Fatty Bolger is a fine example, but they spend a lot of their time eating, talking, and thinking food. Tolkien's peppers in The Hobbit itself and Lord of the Rings with references to the Hobbit's heroes delight. Let's see. Tolkien peppers The Hobbit itself and The Lord of the Rings with the references both to his Hobbit's heroes' delight in hearty food and when cast adrift in the wilderness of Middle-earth to their worries about where their next meal might come from. The typical fare of the Hobbits is homely. Bilbo's unexpected tea party gives us the full flavors of the Hobbit's customary diet, as well as an inkling just how well stocked a Hobbit's larders, note the plural, could be. To meet his guests' requests, Mr. Bilbo successively brings out seed cakes, buttered scones, raspberry jam, apple tart, cold chicken, eggs, pickles, salad, an extra cake or two, all washed down with ale, porter, wine, and tea and coffee. This is the food of Tolkien's own childhood in the 1890s and 1900s, and of late Victorian and Edwardian England, at least of the moderately prosperous, solid, unfussy, filling. Even in today's multicultural Britain, Bilbo's tea-cum-supper party remains a richly nostalgic feast. It also sets the standard against which all other meals in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings will be judged. PH is having lunch right now. So, second breakfast. Near the beginning of The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins finally rid, so he thinks, of the large party of dwarves who have been eating him out of house and home since the previous afternoon, is just about to relax by having a nice little second breakfast when he is interrupted by Gandalf calling him away on his adventure. In our world, second breakfast may be a little more than a snack to get us through mid-morning energy dip, but in its heartiest form, especially on the weekends, it can take the form of brunch. Farmer Maggot's wild mushrooms on toast. What are they calling dragon's eggs? So this is getting into the more fantasy-inspired. But what are they calling this? A fascinating, streaky, and mottled appearance of these dragon eggs make them a truly exciting morning snack. With their Chinese-inspired flavors, they taste great too. I mean, all you'd be doing is eating all day. Like sometimes in fact, most of the time, I just have one meal a day. So eggs, soy sauce, dark soy, light soy sauce, dark soy sauce, black tea leaves. Orange rind. Okay. Spinach and sweet potato cakes. Rosti. R-O-S-T-I. Potato and scallion rosti. Rosti is a delicious way to enjoy potatoes, and here is given a contemporary twist with fresh and zingy salsa. For simpler options, skip the salsa and serve the Rostis with grilled tomatoes and mushrooms. Tolkien famously excised any mention of tomatoes in later revised editions of The Hobbit on the grounds they were a New World crop. He did not, however, apply the same logic to another American species, the potato. Sam speaks fondly of taters, seeming to expect them to be growing in the wild, along with carrots and turnips. In Ithilien, the once fair land between Gondor and Mordor, Sam would have loved this dish then, even if he might be surprised by the strict non-canonical tomato and avocado salsa. Oh, what about corn? That's what I thought. So a quick Google search. Yeah, I thought that maize was also that. So there are interestingly New World crops in here. I did not realize it says he famously excised any mentions of tomatoes in later editions of The Hobbit. I didn't know that. Bannocks are griddled flatbeds that originated in Scotland. Serve this version, which includes fragrant cumin seeds, with butter and gooseberry and rosemary jam on page 48, or for a sweet version, omit the cumin seeds and add a handful of raisins and currants in the dough instead. Forest fruit prosciutto. Date and sesame bars. Spiced apple butter. Gooseberry and rosemary jelly. This jelly is inspired by Samwise Gamgee's love of herbs. When cooking his coney stew on the journey to Mordor, Sam asks Gollum to find some herbs to add some flavor, though he ends up foraging for them himself. A skilled gardener, it's likely the resourceful hobbit would have had fresh herbs handy in the kitchen garden at number 3, Bagshot Row, and would doubtlessly use them at every opportunity. H says, is there any reality in which tomatoes are going to be consumed just as a fruit? I'm not a big fan of tomatoes personally, so I wouldn't do it. I typically don't put tomatoes on other things anyway. I mean, if they're cooked into something, then fine. But I don't typically eat a lot of tomatoes anyway. They just seem uncooked to me. They just seem uncooked. Straight tomatoes with a little salt. Yeah, I know. That's actually, I think it's how my mother used to eat them. A little bit of salt on tomatoes. Yeah, tomatoes and salt. So elevensies. There's some debate among Tolkien fans about whether elevensies is a different meal from second breakfast and how to account for the Hobbit's 6 meals a day. Elevensies is certainly a common English term for a late morning snack, but Tolkien makes use of it just once in his description of the long-expected party. It's elevensies that day that the feast begins. Moreover, Bilbo eats, really it is. Tolkien makes use of it just once in his description of the long-expected party. Okay, for the long-expected party. Yeah, it's at elevensies that the day's feasting begins. Moreover, Bilbo eats second breakfast as late as 10:30, just a half an hour before, so the two meals seem to be all but coincide time-wise. All that matters, perhaps, is the hobbits like their food and plenty of it. Well, I was wondering about that myself. Yeah, we don't typically say second breakfast, but brunch. But when I think of brunch, I think of, the hearty meal like it was talking about in here. If you're going to be doing brunch, you're kind of going all in. Not that I often have breakfast and second breakfast ever. But, if you're holding off, we're doing brunch. A brunch is a big meal. But, I've never heard the term elevensies used. Here in the U.S., or second breakfast for that matter. Okay, cram. Okay, let's see. Let's look at this. So how are they interpreting cram? You see, that would also be one of the more fun ones for dinner and a board game. Cram. Dense and filling, these seeded flatbreads are the perfect vehicle for all kinds of toppings, from pickles and cheese to smoked salmon and cured meats. Experiment with your favorite toppings and take these with you on your next picnic. Stored in an airtight tin, they will keep for up to a week. Makes 20. Prep time 40 minutes. Ingredients. So they're saying, cram is a type of traveling bread made by the men of Dale for both their own use and to sell to the dwarves of Erebor. Medium oatmeal. So this says you're going to use medium oatmeal, plain flour plus extra for dusting. 4 tablespoons mixed seeds, such as poppy seeds, linseeds, and sesame seeds. Teaspoon celery salt or sea salt. Freshly ground black pepper, unsalted butter, chilled and diced. Tablespoons cold water, 5 tablespoons cold water. Put the oatmeal, flour, seeds, salt, and pepper in a bowl or food processor. Add the butter and rub in with fingertips or process until the mixture resembles breadcrumbs. Add the measured water and mix or blend to a firm dough, adding a little more water if the dough feels dry. Roll the dough out on a lightly floured surface. Cut out 20 rounds using a 6-centimeter plain or fluted biscuit cutter. I don't have all that. Cut out 20 rounds or re-roll the trimmings to make more. Place slightly apart on a large greased baking sheet. Bake in a preheated oven 180 degrees C, gas mark 4, for about 25 minutes until firm. Transfer to a wire rack to cool. See, Sable says cram is basically hardtack. Lynn says, that's what I was thinking. When I think of cram, I think of hardtack. So it surprises me that this has, it surprises me when they're talking about, hey, all different kinds of toppings. Not that you can't put toppings on cram. If you have to eat cram, you might as well put some toppings on it if you've got them. But the seeds here, so oatmeal, it's in large part oatmeal and flour with seeds mixed in. Lynn says this cram recipe is basically a biscuit without baking powder. Too moist to keep well for a long journey. Yeah. So this is a different kind of interpretation. I would have, when I think of cram, I think of hardtack biscuits. So I might just have to do hardtack. I'm sure other people have other versions of cram online as well. Find a good one. All right. So then how is it saying to do lembas? Okay. Lembas here. Lembas bread. With the hint of spiciness from the chili. Wait, chili? What? With the hint of spiciness from the chili, this bread is delicious, warm from the oven alongside the smoky stewed beans on page 16, or simply accompanied by a few rashers of crispy bacon. It's very good with mature cheddar and a few sweet pickled cucumbers for lunch. Uh-oh. Lembas bread feeds the soul even more than the belly, helping travelers maintain the willpower to overcome tremendous obstacles and intimidating distances. Galadriel gifts the Fellowship with a stock of Lembas breads, each wrapped in Malorn leaves, to sustain them during the hardships ahead. According to the Silmarillion, Lembas is first made by Yavanna, the Valyrian queen responsible for all things that grow on the earth, using a special corn that grows in Aman. It's therefore likely the lembas would have been similar in texture and appearance to deliciously comforting cornbread. Well, I never thought of lembas like cornbread. Lynn says all this lembas recipe is just spicy cornbread. Yeah, I bet somebody else. So we need to find a good lembas recipe. But we need some type of authentic lembas recipe. Make 16 squares. So yeah, this has flour in it, polenta, salt, baking powder, castor sugar, grated Parmesan cheese, handful of fresh parsley leaves, 1 red chili, 3 tablespoons olive oil, 2 eggs beaten, and 300 milliliters of buttermilk. So oil a 20 centimeter square cake tin. Sift together the flour, polenta, salt, and baking powder into a large bowl. Stir in the sugar, Parmesan, parsley, and chili. Mix together the oil, eggs, and buttermilk in a separate bowl. Then gently stir into the dry ingredients until combined. Pour the mixture into a prepared tin and place in a preheated oven. 190 degrees C for 30 to 35 minutes. Remove from the oven and transfer to a wire rack to cool slightly before cutting into 16 squares. This bread can be eaten warm or cold and is best eaten on the same day. Yeah, I know. That's what I was. So Tolkien ditched tomatoes. I didn't know that. It says he famously did that. But it seems very odd to me that, yeah, he ditched tomatoes because they're a New World crop, but potatoes and corn. Corn was the big one to me. I was like, they eat a lot of corn in Middle Earth. So corn, tomatoes, and tomatoes. Yeah, lembas, I never got a cornbread description of lembas. I've always pictured lembas as more dense, layered bread, not cornbread at all. I think it'd be closer to shortbread than anything else you'd find here on prosaic Earth. Could be. Yeah, I don't think this one is a good representation of lembas either. Yeah, Lynn says maybe shortbread. So I'll make a note of that over here. So potentially shortbread. I bet it will take no time to find somebody who's coming up with a really good lembas recipe. Elven white bread rolls. These rolls are ideal as an accompaniment to soups and stews, and will be perfect alongside the Lake Town beef pot roast on page 154. For a cheese and onion variation, replace the seeds with 5 spring onions, very finely chopped and lightly cooked for 1 minute in a tablespoon of olive oil. Once glazed, sprinkle with 3 tablespoons freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Lembas may be the most famous elven bread, but does not appear to be something that's eaten on a daily basis because, we are told, a single bite can fill a man's stomach for a whole day. In their normal daily lives, elves enjoy a delicious, light, and airy white bread, as discovered by Frodo and his companions when they come across a party of high elves in the Green Hill country of the Shire. Sweet pickled cucumbers. Dwarven spiced pickle root. No, beetroot. Pickled beetroot. Pickled peaches. Enjoy the flavor of summer and colder months with these quick and easy pickled peaches. I'd never thought of pickling a peach. Yeah, I completely agree here. Dense, like Bacon says, but not heavy. More light and crumbly than chewy. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because it's meant to be fairly dense and sturdy because it's meant to travel well with. Pork pie. Bjorn's warm-baked cheese. What could be nicer than warm, oozy cheese enhanced with sweet honey, tart cranberries, and crunchy pecans? Ideal as a light meal or starter, all it needs is plenty of fresh, crusty bread for scooping and eating. This is probably pretty good. Actually, let's take a look at this. So what could be better than warm, oozy cheese enhanced with sweet honey, tart cranberries, and crunchy pecans? Ideal as a light meal or starter, all this needs is plenty of fresh, crusty bread for scooping and eating. Honey, along with plenty of cream and cheese, featured heavy in the vegetarian diet of the Bjornings, a shape-changing people for whom Tolkien seems to have taken inspiration from the Berserkers, the Viking bear-shirt warriors. To these staples, we have added some dried berries and nuts, which real bears are quite fond of too. This appetizer will satisfy the bear inside every man, dwarf, and hobbit. Serves for 20 minutes. So 300 grams whole baby brie or camembert in a box. 3 tablespoons honey, 25 grams of pecans, handful dried cranberries, thyme sprigs. Remove any plastic packaging from the cheese and return it to its wooden box. Place on a baking sheet and drizzle generously with honey. Cook in a preheated oven, 200 degrees, gas mark 6 for 15 minutes. Meanwhile, toast the pecans in a small frying pan for 3 to 5 minutes until lightly browned and then set aside. Take the cheese from the oven and cut a small cross in the center. Scatter with pecans, dried cranberries, and thyme and serve with crusty bread. That one sounds pretty good. Bjorn's warm-baked cheese. I can completely see that one. Yeah, see, that's the problem. I mean, Sable says it's literally magic bread, though, as that one AD&D book we were reading was obsessed with. So, yeah, but we got to come up with something that's our closest approximation, our closest interpretation, which I think is not this. Lynn says, that's not all different from a medieval brie tart, but lacks the crust, which keeps the oozy melted cheese under control. Yeah, so if my understanding is correct, it's trying to get you to cook it so that it's like the center, because it says you cut a small cross at the center. Because then something's got to keep it together from oozing. Medieval brie tart. Ale, apple, and mustard chutney. Crick Hollow apple loaf. West Farthing fairings. These delicate biscuits are perfect with a cup of tea and will keep in an airtight tin for up to 3 days. To ring the changes, swap the golden syrup for maple syrup. To ring the changes. Cherry and almond tray bake. Barlaman Butterbur's blackberry tart. Make the most of late summer bounty with this tart. which can be served warm or cold as mid-morning treat or whipped cream or a dessert. The lattice pastry topping looks very impressive, but it's easy to do. For almost all the hobbits of the Shire, the Prancing Pony Inn in the village of Bree, out on the Great East Road, where it meets the Greenway, represents the limit of their geographic knowledge. It seems that only the most intrepid of Tolkien's Bucklanders occasionally ventured through the Haygate and made a visit to the inn. Perhaps one of the incentives might have been the promise of blackberry tart, a specialty on the menu of the pony's forgetful innkeeper, Barlaman Butterbur. Let's see what's going on here. So food on the go. We might, and then pause. Food on the go. In the pre-industrial world of Middle-earth, travel, sometimes undertaken by horse, occasionally by horse and cart, but most often on foot, is painfully slow. Only the eagles and a quasi-magical horse like Shadowfax are able to cover vast distances quickly. For this reason, while there seems to be the occasional inn offering home-cooked fare, for the most part, travelers must fend for themselves, carrying vital supplies with them and cooking, while safe and possible, over an open campfire. They also have to carry some basic cooking equipment. Sam's pack, we learn in Lord of the Rings, contains a few precious items: a tinderbox, 2 shallow pans, a wooden spoon, a 2-pronged fork, skewers, and a dwindling treasure of salt. Fortunately, there seems to be a number of foods specifically made for the long-distance traveler on the march. or warrior on the march. The elves made lembas or whey bread, which, according to legend, is the kind of cornbread originally made. I guess that's why they're saying. I don't remember that saying about corn in Valyria or in from the elves, but maybe that's where they're getting it from. This is a kind of cornbread originally made from the Vala Yavanna for the elves undertaking the great journey to Aman. Wrapped in malorn leaves and left unbroken, we are told that lembas can stay fresh and sweet for many, many days. And just one of the breads will keep a traveler on his feet for a whole day, even if he is one of the tall men of Minas Tirith. Men have their own kind of whey bread too, even if it's less nutritious kind. The men of the lake town produce a nourishing, if uninspiring, hard biscuit known as cram. We have devised a much more delicious version. Yeah, I know. Why is this at the end here? We've devised a much more delicious version, while the Bjorning chieftain makes his own secret recipe, twice-baked honey cakes, page 116, which he claims can sustain travelers during a long march. All of these are well and good, but nothing can beat a proper cooked meal, which even on the most arduous trek can conjure up comforting feelings of home. The classic campfire meal in Lord of the Rings is the coney stew cooked by Sam, after Gollum produces 2 dead rabbits for the Hobbit masters. Much to Gollum's disgust, Sam sets about using them to make stew, for which he finds a few herbs, but no stock or taters. Simple as the dish is, the food seems like a feast to the half-starved hobbits, reviving their spirits before continuing their journey into Mordor. That leads us into luncheon. So I think this will be a second day. We got a second day on here. Sable's right. There's a lot going on today. So we've been going for about an hour. So we will leave this at luncheon when we come back. This is good, though. I need to do this to take some notes about things to do for dinner and a board game. And I want to talk to Brianna about that when she and I talk at 2. Let's see. This has actually been another fantastic conversation, inspiring another fantastic conversation. I'm upset with how my camera looks. I'm using my phone. I think my phone actually has broken, and there's like some kind of stuff, condensation or stuff inside the lens, because this does not look right. I'll have to figure something else out. Let's see. What's going on over here? Oh, talking about Bree. Yeah, this was fun. This is a great conversation. All right, yes, everybody. So 7 o'clock tonight, I'm going to put up the I'll put up the thumbnail for that shortly, because I was working on that. So I'm going to go right back to that. I'll put up the thumbnail so people can say it and click on the remind me link or notify me link when that's up, and then we'll do that. So 7 o'clock tonight, Doug and I. For Star Trek VI Undiscovered Country. So go forth, be creative, be productive, and grind on. Later.